Hello and welcome to Self-Talk. I'm Rachel Astarte. Today I have as my guest Dominey Drew, who is a human psychology and attraction facilitator. She specializes in self-sabotage and how it stops men from attaining healthy relationships. She offers programs that help men identify what is holding them back and how to fix it. Welcome, Dominey.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. This is I'm so excited.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. How did you get started doing this kind of work?
Well, it's a little bit of a two-part question. The work that I actually do, the highly transformative process work that I do, I've done myself for almost 20 years. And I am a poster child for its success. The reason I did it for about 20 years is because it works so well. I'm really like 180 degrees from where I started. I was just a mess of insecurities and self-hatred and body dysmorphia and all of the issues you read in the textbook. I had them all, and a lot of low self-confidence, things like that. And as I began really diving into this work, what it does is it doesn't tell you, oh, Dominey, you're pretty, don't worry about what other people think, right? That doesn't do anything. It instead goes straight to the core of the issue and addresses it right there, very deep in the system. And so when it shifts, it's permanent, and the transformation is really complete. And so I've been able to just transform massively over that time. And now I teach others how to do the same. Mm-hmm. The second way that you may have meant that question is how to get into men in particular and men in dating specifically. And that, honestly, I really just chose. I just picked it. The work isn't specific to men. It's not specific to dating because nobody really has dating issues. Dating is actually an incredibly intuitive and innate process. If the whole society collapsed, we would eat and sleep and mate. That's like all our system really wants to do at the core. And so the reason you have issues in your dating or relationship life is you have personal problems that are just showing up there. So the work doesn't need to be specific to dating. That's more sort of like where I wanted to market it and the people I wanted to work with. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you go from being an insecure person with low self-esteem to doing a 180 shift? What kind of, and it's a permanent shift, you're saying? Mm-hmm. That's a lot to ask for. And I mean, obviously patterns take time to change. What are some of the things that helped you in your own process?
The work, the process work that I did, which was through 2 intensive 4-year schools and a master's degree, but really it all came down to the same process of going to the source of the issue deep in the human system. Mm-hmm. So it goes deeper. Like one of the ways I'm able to get people results as quickly as I am is I don't just work on a mental and psychological level, although those things are great. Mm-hmm. The human system has more than that, right? It's also emotional and physical and spiritual and energetic, if you can feel those levels as well. Mm-hmm. And so when you work on all the levels at once, it accelerates that whole process and really moves the person forward very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. The transformation, it doesn't actually need to take very long. It can actually happen quite rapidly. Mm-hmm. It tends to take a long time. And I think the reason it tends to take a long time is that we tend to treat the symptom rather than the underlying cause.
Mm-hmm. For example,
so let's say, we can use relationships, but you could use business relationships as the exact same. Let's say that you're repeatedly attracting women who are unfaithful or men who won't commit, right? Okay, great. And so you could look at that as, okay, how do you feel about yourself and what are you telling yourself that's making you sort of settle for these people? And that's all really true. And that will make a big shift. Mm-hmm. There will be a place even deeper that underlies those levels. And if you can address that at the source, it's a misconception, which I'm sure you work with all the time in your work, such that, through an overwhelming or a traumatic experience as a child, we form these assumptions about life. They're not thoughts. Thoughts and beliefs are not the same material. It's really an assumption. You grow up, in I'm thinking of it because your glasses, you know, they look like they have a little tint. And I go, that's exactly how it is. It's like you see the world through a screen, through a slight tint, but you don't see the tint. You just think that's how the world is. And so it's so deeply ingrained
Right,
that
right,
you just assume, right?
right.
So, but it's actually false. And so, you know, if you have these experiences, you form, let's say, a belief that, you know, your mother leaves on vacation and you didn't know that she was coming back, and you children generalize their life experience, and so you go, oh, women can't be trusted. Women will leave me.
Right, 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 right.
And you have no idea that you believe that because you were 1, 2, 3, or 4 years old when you formed it. And then, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years later, you come into my office and you go, I just don't know why, but every woman I get in a relationship with leaves me. And I go, great, let's start there. And we dive in to say, what is it about you that's drawing that repeated experience? And when you find that and clear it, and it's permanent, because it's not a coping mechanism or a technique. It's not like we're making it a little bit better. It's a misconception. Once you see that you are actually incorrect in what you believed, it's an awareness thing, and you can't really reverse awareness. So that's why the results are permanent.
Yeah, and that's really powerful work. And of course, yeah, I deal with people trying to shift what I would call patterning.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether it's unconscious patterning or conscious patterning. And so, and this is something that'd be really great to get your perspective on as another professional, which is sometimes, I don't know if you've encountered this, but awareness is just the first step. So I have patients all the time who say, I get it logically that I don't need to eat a box of cookies every time I'm sad. I get it. I just can't stop. I just don't know what to do to not, you know, and so there's almost like a deeper layer to why am I attracting women who are, or who will leave me, or men who are emotionally unavailable. I get why that is, but how do I just stop kind of vibing these people toward me?
Yes, that is, that's the crux of it right there. So everybody, for the most part, knows or has access to knowing the answers.
Absolutely.
Right? They're everywhere, right? You know you need to go to the gym. You know how you need to do to be happy. You know how to scale your business to $1 million. You could buy that in a book. It's on the internet. You could, how to reach enlightenment is on the internet. Everybody has the answers right now to everything.
Yeah. Right on.
So why can't we actually do it? Which is exactly what you're asking. So there's a distinction here between the knowledge and awareness. They know the answer. Their brain understands that they need to not eat the box of cookies. Something much more powerful and deeper is making it such that you're not even hesitating on your way to the cookies. So that's what I call that level of self-sabotage. You're conceptually aware of what you need to do. But again, that's just the mental level.
Right.
That's just the psychological. And it's fascinating realm, but it's not the most powerful. And it's not really where most of your issues lie. It helps to work there because you see progress, and you can almost track mentally what you're doing. And that gives you encouragement. You're like, oh, this is because of my mother. Okay, now I understand. You're understanding your issue. You're smarter and educated about your issue. Right. But that's not solving it.
Correct.
Because the issue is just lying deeper. So in what you're saying with understanding that's only the first step, yes. The awareness, when you go down and you feel in an integrated way in the moment on a deep level, why you would genuinely rather have cookies than not cookies, then it can shift in a moment. It's another level down.
So it's a somatic. And because I think it's also in the body.
100%.
Yeah. So also understand, what is my body doing when I'm sitting on the couch feeling like crap, and something goes, cookies, 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 cookies. You know. So what I work with patients too is to say, well, take a moment, and this is where I guess the semantics come in about what is awareness. Awareness is making that a full mind, body, spirit situation.
Right.
Is that what you mean?
Yes, when it's on that deeper level that you're talking about, when it's embodied, when it's more on the energetic, and then you see the connection. Oh, that's why I really do want those cookies. Not like, oh, I understand that, like, you know, my ego wants to, or something where there's a disconnect, right? It's like my ego. It's like, this is like a part of you that's, you know, either, you know, why are you self-sabotaging, essentially? You know, what is it that it's about that? And that's where it all comes in.
So that's a beautiful segue into, Dominey, what is self-sabotage?
So the way I like to describe it, and this is the closest that I've found. This came to me just I riff in my podcast episodes. I just talk for, you know, and teach for sometimes an hour straight. And this just came to me one time, and it's like as if, you know, you have access to the most technologically advanced vehicle, you know, that we are aware of on this planet. But nobody gave you an owner's manual.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these cool things you can do, literally almost limitless potential, with a few space-time restrictions, but far less than you might think, really. Very few.
Yeah, that's a podcast in itself.
That's a whole podcast. I was just thinking, I was like, actually, a whole podcast episode about that. There is you have the incredible system, but you're steering with the rearview mirror. And you can't figure out why your vehicle's not going the way you want. So your conscious mind, your subconscious, and I'm sure you work with this all the time, your conscious mind knows what you think you want. Important distinction there, which may not be what you want, but what you think you want. I really want to be in a relationship, but I keep being single. Okay?
Right.
So from what I know about how the human system works, what you really want is to be single, because you are. So now we find out why, right? You've got one foot on the gas. I really want a relationship. I want a six-figure business. I want, you know, spiritual enlightenment. That's the gas. And then there's a foot on the brake that you're not quite aware of.
Right.
And that foot on the brake, as you know, in the subconscious, if we even just speak on the psychological, in the subconscious, keeps you safe, right? Don't do this thing. There's that deeper level that wins every time. So you got one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. You're not going anywhere, and you can't really figure out how. That's what self-sabotage is. It's the area where it's actually not that you're stopping yourself from getting what you want. That's how I phrase it, because it's more understandable. But if we look at it in a more truthful way, it's actually you are getting exactly what you want. At every moment of every single day. If you're confused as to why that might be what you want, that's where my work comes in. I show you how you're getting what you're getting. Right. I definitely don't want to be single, but I am. Okay, let's find why you really want to be single. Address that. Oh, if I'm single, then I'll be hurt. Okay, cool. So that piece then has the steering wheel. You address that can shift very quickly, and then all of a sudden, getting into a relationship is a lot easier.
Yeah. And there are so many responses. No, Dominey, I don't want to be single. I don't no, that's why I'm here. Right. So a lot of it takes chipping away at even those stories we tell ourselves, which is part of our patterning. And I found this too. There's a lot of societal pressure.
Oh yeah.
For us to be doing what everyone else is doing, which is, I don't know, I got a lot of millennials in my practice. And so, you know, it's like all my friends are getting married and having kids. And what's wrong with me? I get that all the time. I think there's something wrong with me, which of course there's nothing wrong with anyone at all, ever. You know, you're on just in a place where you are. Anywhere. Yeah, exactly. So part of it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you, is helping shed some light on some of that mental self-talk, you know, that is stopping them from really seeing what the situation is.
Yeah, and the self-talk, you know, they can usually hear, which means it's already in the realm of the conscious. What the thing that I use the body for is to go below. You already know what you think and what you believe, in that sense of the word. You know what you think. You know that you shouldn't eat the cookies and you want to the new information. So there's like this, what I call this mental hamster wheel of going around in circles of this story, right? I know that I'm not as good as my friends, but I don't know how to get to be as good as my friends. Okay, cool. So if we stop there, you know, but if we go into the body, then
Mhm.
through the body, you can start doing some like really Jungian kind of free association about like, what do you see? And if you were to see anything, I don't
Right.
know, what would it
Right.
be? And da, da, da.
Right.
Then you're connecting the conscious mind with the
Yes.
subconscious.
Yeah.
And then you're accessing all of the information that you need. All of the answers are actually right here.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
have seen this work thousands of times. I have never seen it not work. Every
Mhm.
single time it's right there. So the trick is really just getting off that mental hamster wheel, as you said. And
Yeah.
so it can be sort of bit by bit, but if you sort of go, oh, I definitely don't want to be definitely, okay, cool. I totally understand. You're absolutely right. Humor me for a second. If there were a reason you did want to be single, what would that be?
Mhm.
And then in one shot, they drop their story. Well,
Right.
this, obviously I'm right, but we're just playing a game here. Okay, cool. And then they open to a new template.
Right.
Suddenly there's room for possibility and
Mhm.
reality. Interestingly, to go back to that deep level, in that moment, reality shifts
Right.
because before there is no reason I want to be single. That is a closed door.
Mhm.
Reality ends there. But then when we make that jump into imagination, where they don't have to, there's nothing riding on it, takes the whole story away in one thing, and then suddenly there's actually a possibility of, well, I mean, I guess I don't have any pressure to make somebody else happy. Oh,
Mhm.
that's interesting. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Right. So it opens up a different way that they as you said, they already know it, but are just not bringing it to the conscious level.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about the body, since we kind of touched on it and we keep touching on it, how important it is. Um, how do you work with the body? What is the import in your business for the body?
You know, I really use it in the way we were just describing, to where, you know, we live so much in our heads, and what's really important to know is that everything that happens in your head is made up.
Mm-hmm.
It literally does not exist. There is no mass to a thought. An emotion is a little bit different level,
Mm-hmm.
right? An emotion is here. You feel, I'm afraid. Yep,
Yeah.
that is very real. It is here.
Yeah.
Fear might be elicited by something you're projecting into the future, but everything that's happening, where we spend like 90% of our time, is
Mm-hmm.
literally, actually delusion.
Mm-hmm.
Not even an opinion on it. It's either in the past, which literally actually does not exist.
Doesn't exist.
And I say literally actually because like it's like, oh yeah, the spiritual thing, like there is only now. No, literally. Look around in reality.
Yeah, you can't grab it. You
You
can't.
cannot grab it. There is nothing there or there.
Right.
And so that is the essence of the mental hamster wheel. You are riding around, and I used to do this full time. Oh my God, it was a goddamn mess. I was just like, just racing. I was always worried about what people were thinking. I would have been sitting here like, oh man, is Rachel, like, she seems really, she looked down. Is she bored? Should I not have, like, I mean, the crazy was just rampant. Right?
Yeah. And it doesn't stop. And it's funny.
It doesn't stop.
That is the hamster wheel. That's, you know, and it doesn't, or the loop or whatever you want to call it. And it feeds on itself.
Oh, endless.
And so I like to talk about, you know, just sticking a stick in the hamster wheel and stopping it.
That's good. I
like, you know, just like,
and it feels, what that stick?
And it feels like that. And I think that's something too, is we could take it to the next level. You know, obviously somatic work is very important. The whole vagus nerve and how it is, you know, I talk in my practice about our actual brains being in our bellies, because
Yes,
that's where they started, you know, evolutionarily speaking. So yeah, we have to pay attention to the body. We have to pay attention to the mind. It's very important and really, really good. And then of course there's a spirituality element too. And when the three of them are working in conjunction, you're ready to rock and roll.
That's the place to go.
Right.
But when you go into the body, all the thoughts disappear. Yeah, which is exactly where you're going.
So part of it too is after that initial awareness that you're talking about, and okay, now I'm going to start practicing a different way of being. I'm going to bust out of the hamster wheel.
Yep.
Right. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable. I think that a lot of, and I would love to get your perspective on this with your clients. Do you ever have anyone come to you and say, I know what I'm supposed to be thinking, but I still have these thoughts. I know what I'm supposed to be feeling. I know, and I still feel like there's something else going on, and I'm out of control. And how does that work if that does happen for you?
Well, if I take your words quite literally, if those words actually came to me for a client, there's a number of things going on there. There's the supposed to think.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're just thinking about thinking. So that's not, we're
Right.
just adding complexing layers, complicating layers instead of coming down. The whole point of coming into the body, and this is really, really essential, is that the body exists only in the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
So in one step, and I have a breathing exercise that I would actually be happy to send you. I can send you a link to it, and you can put it
Sure.
for your
We'll put it in the show
demographic.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah, for your listeners. That just walks you down into your body, and you can solve probably about 85% of any problems that you have in the moment. You can learn to do this and actually solve it in the moment, like in the actual, like actually going to the source and healing that little piece, whatever's coming up and causing distress in the moment. But when you are in your body, all of the story is gone. All of the thoughts, just about, you'll have a couple come in very, very slowly. But like the chatter is just in one step. Like that's the only thing, is just to come in, and like that solves, I mean, you know how many problems are formed and sustained in the mind.
Yeah.
In one motion, just about all of that can be eliminated. And so if that becomes the habit, like now I sit in my body and I'm just present pretty much all the time. Not that I like don't go up at any time, but I used to like never be here. I mean, I was distracted and I was up there and I was excited and I was just like very disconnected. And now I just sit very comfortably in my body. And as a result, that chatter, mine was constant and not nice, not like a cheerleader.
No.
It was very bitchy. It was very uncomfortable. I could never do it right. And that voice, I got to the point where that voice is totally gone.
Okay, beautiful. And that's what we want. And that's what I was addressing, that I'm thinking about the listeners hearing this and going, wow, that sounds so easy. And yes, there are two sides of it. Anyone can have an awakening moment at any time. At any point, someone can just, the way that I put it with my patients is, you have a choice. Do you want to feel like crap, or do you want to not feel like crap? You know what your patterns are, right? So, but trying a new way of being, there's also a little bit like Robert Bly, who's a poet and also the leader of the men's movement in the 1990s, said that anytime we evolve psychospiritually, there's always a mourning period for the person that we have left behind.
Beautiful. Well said.
And sometimes, and I think it's essential, and I've seen this in my patients, and maybe you've seen this too with your clients, is that there's a little bit of a reluctance to leave that old way, that old person. And sometimes a little depression can come in. And that's when it's so important to push forward into the new way of being. I use the analogy of when you go to the gym and you pump iron, and the next day you're really sore. And you think, well, this sucks. But what are you really supposed to do? Go back and do it again.
Yes.
Rip the muscles, they get stronger, and then you don't have that pain anymore. But so you push through. Yeah. And do you experience any of that sort of, I don't want to say resistance or reluctance or anything like that, but maybe a little bit of melancholy about, I've lived this way for 20 years. I've been self-sabotaging for 20 years. I know how not to do it, but it's like, I don't know who this new person is sometimes.
Yes. Oh, 100% that. And thank you for refocusing me, because I got totally distracted in my last answer. Yes, I definitely find that. I haven't found depression. I haven't experienced that so much, but there definitely is, first of all, resistance to change anyway. If for no other, even if you're super ready to change, you can do it very quickly, but there can also, for a lot of people, there's, I've done it one way for 50 years and I've done it this new way for 2 weeks. And it's like, okay, hold on.
Right.
The new way of being, I think there are a couple of different layers here. The new way of being, there's some unfamiliarity. in the beginning,
Mhm.
right? And just the fact that it's new can give you that
Yeah.
jostling, like, oh, wait, what? In other words, you're asking, well, who am I now?
Right.
If I don't hate my body, then who am I?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Right? If I'm okay being single, or if, you know, who am I? Who would I be if I were actually got the relationship that I wanted? What would that even look like? So you're literally actually becoming someone new,
Hmm.
right? Someone more accurate to who you really are. But it just, you know, and so yeah, there is a death, and there can be a little mourning of letting go. And from in my work, that mostly shows up as a little resistance in the moment. I create a very strong container right in that sort of moment when that, oh God, should I let go of this? And it's just like, either way is okay. I've got you right here.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing I do this sort of as I'm looking at the moment, to help to facilitate that, because there is some, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. What if I could get what I want? Who would I be? That was my big image. I can't have what I want. And so like that took a long, like, well, I couldn't even consider getting what I wanted for many years. I mean, I really, I took one step at a time on that one.
Yeah.
But yes, I think there's absolutely, but it's important to know that it's just, you know, fear of the unknown. And I say just fear of the unknown, and a little bit slightly dismissively, because that's like innately one of our most important fears, right? That keeps us alive.
Sure.
So like that's pretty far in there. So it's not about sort of pushing through the fear, or like, you know, pushing it away or telling it it's not important, but just being like, okay.
Yes, exactly. Dropping into the moment.
Yep. I know I want this. I also really don't want this. And I'm freaking out. Okay. Whew. All right. Can I tolerate this moment? Because that's the reality.
Yes.
Can I tolerate this?
Definitely. And, you know, I think topically, one thing about this past year that a lot of people have had to make peace with is uncertainty.
Yes.
And, you know, our whole lives got turned upside down, and we had no choice. It was sink or swim.
Yep.
You don't get to say, well, yeah, no, I don't really feel like being quarantined. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really.
This is icky. I don't like it.
Yes,
And,
no, thank you.
and not knowing, when are things going to open up again? Will there be a vaccine? Will we all die? Is this the end of the human race? You know, and you know, that whole thing is uncertainty. And so what you said is so important about being able to hold space for yourself.
Yes.
In the ambivalence.
Yes.
You know, and to be able to say, it's okay if I'm feeling nervous about this.
Yeah, that's really important.
And that's where choice comes in.
Yes.
And that's
once you're capable of doing that, can you tolerate the reality? I don't want to talk, you know, you're speaking with a client, you hit something and they go, I don't want to talk about this. You don't have to talk about it, but let me just breathe for a minute here and just, you know, because that reaction goes, I don't want to go there. I'm not okay going there. Okay, cool. Can you just like sit here right on the edge? You are okay going there. It's just hitting a belief that if I go there, something bad will happen, right? And so then as you can sit there, that softens that line, and finally you can be like, well, I guess I can, you know, talk a little bit about my mother, but, you know, I don't want to do anything. Okay, cool. Right. And as you're doing, that's integrating that issue more and more until you can touch it. So being able to like touch it and feel it. And by that, I mean like tolerating the reality of the moment, tolerating the uncertainty, as you said.
Yeah.
The uncertainty was there before too.
Oh, exactly right. Thank you.
It just stripped us of the delusion that like, we got this, you know, like nothing can hurt us.
Yeah. And also, when I start to have icky feelings, I can go to the movies. I can go out with a friend. I can, you know, go running around the block or whatever it is. Go to a party, and can't do that now. So we've all kind of had to go inside and deal with our shit, you know? So
kind of best case scenario if you think about it.
I know, you know, and I'm sure you have seen this too, but you know, a lot of people have blossomed during this year, psychospiritually. Yeah. And that makes all of us very happy. Plus, it gives back to the world around us when we're playing at the top of our game, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Everybody benefits.
Everybody benefits. Yep. So, as we wrap things up, I would love for you to share with the listeners how they can get in touch with you. What are you doing now? Or you talk about your programs or any publications, or how do we find you?
Absolutely. I'm about to embark on a road trip west. I'm going to put my little dog in the car. I'm going to work from my car for a while. So I'm all the regular places. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. But you know, the main ways that I work now, everything that I do is online. So there's one-on-one sessions, there's group, there's group process work that I do, a master class. All of that can be found on my website. So probably just to go to domineydrew.com, which we can put a link up to.
Yeah, and I'll actually have all of these links in the show notes.
Yep, that would be great.
So people will be able to see them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do a podcast as well where I teach very much about this work, which is a great way to kind of get a feel for me, and decide whether or not working with me is right. And I'm happy to send you that link as well. And so probably podcast or website would be the best.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dominey. This has been very enlightening.
Yeah, it's fun.
And anything else any final words you'd like to share?
Oh, and I can also include that breathing exercise.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Feel free to follow that. Anybody listening, that is a really great way of just getting into the body. And please, you know, if you're going to take something from this interview, it would be really great to shift your awareness. To connect with your body just involves shifting your awareness there. Just think about it. Just bring your focus. How's my left knee feeling? You know, what's going on in my right ankle? And as you bring your awareness there, if you hold it, you know, in the beginning, it'll take a few minutes, and then eventually you'll be able to do it instantaneously. Then you'll notice the thoughts start to calm. You'll come into the present moment, and it solves so many issues. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, and you can live as a default that way all the time, really just through that one exercise. So please feel free to take advantage of that.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautifully said. And thank you again for being on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.